Hey there, hope you're having an awesome week. I know you guys had told me you were going to be away for this week, for the new year, so no sweat. I hope you guys are having a great break. I very much look forward to seeing you and seeing how you're doing, but I just want to wish you Happy New Year, and I can't wait to see you next week. So for today, what I wanted to talk about is some of the more foundational things that we sort of have been talking about inadvertently without really breaking down. Now the reason for that is because when we play the ukulele, we've been mostly focusing on rhythm without looking at note names and note values very much. But we have been talking about rhythm, and so it's useful for us to really break down these concepts so that when we go to play these songs a little bit later, now that we're starting to add rhythm to our playing, we know what we're talking about when we're getting into that. So there's a sheet here, and I'm going to give you a worksheet called Rhythm Review. So this is going to be in your Google Drive. So I want you to print this out and take a look at it. Now, don't worry about the note names per se. So if we take a look at this, you see how that has a specific note and that has a specific note? Don't worry about the specific note part of this. Just worry about the actual rhythms themselves. So when you go to practice these rhythms at home, I want you to try clapping them. And then eventually we're going to add chords to them. But in order for us to even get into that, we have to first talk about what these note names are and how long we hold them for. So first we're going to talk about our note durations. Now, some of this is probably going to be a review for you. That's okay. This is why I'm calling it Rhythm Review, because it's just to help us sort of fill in any gaps that we might have. So the first one we talk about is this. This is called a whole note. A whole note we hold for 4 beats. So if I play a C chord and I hold it as a whole note, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a whole note. Half note looks like a whole note but has a stem on it. That's held for 2 beats. So again, same thing if we have our C chord. Half note is 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. Quarter note is what we've been doing for most of our strumming so far. Quarter note is filled in, and it's 1 beat. So all of our songs where we've been going 1, 1, 1, 1. That's a quarter note rhythm. All the way back from You Are My Sunshine up until now. Just practicing our quarter notes. 1, 1, 1, 1. Next, if we were to take a quarter note and split it in half, this is where things get a little bit tricky. So it's hard to think about, okay, well, there's 1 beat, but then how do I know what half of 1 beat is? Because if we look at our note pyramid, whole note is 4 beats long. 4 beats long. If I split that whole note in half, I get 2 half notes. A half note is worth 2 beats. 2 plus 2 still equals 4. That's the trick. So I have 2 notes that last the same amount of time as 1 whole note. So for a whole note, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4. For 2 half notes, I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Still adds up to 4. If I split those half notes in half, I end up with 4 quarter notes. A quarter note is worth 1 beat. So I go 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. 4. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exact same thing. So if I break a quarter note in half, that's when I get eighth notes. Now it's hard to sort of visualize what exactly I mean by half of a quarter note. So think about it this way. Imagine there's a pie on the table. So I've already split it in half. Let's just imagine there's a whole pie on the table, okay? Say it's Christmas or New Year's, but you and I want to split the pie just between you and me. We don't want to share with anybody else. That's not very festive of us, but let's just imagine for a second that that was the case. If we want to split a pie, what we would do is we cut that pie in half. Now, how much pie do you end up with, and how much pie do I end up with? We both get 1 piece, but we both end up with half of a pie each. We both get 1/2 of that pie. That's what an eighth note is. It's 1/2 of a beat. So eighth notes are half of a beat. So to get 4 full beats out of eighth notes, we have to play 8 eighth notes. So if quarters went 1, 2, 3, 4, eighth notes go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we count them as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that gives us 4 full beats in eighth notes. So just to practice that, quarters are 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Eighth notes are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and those are your eighth notes. So that's the layer that we're adding. That's where we're starting to get into trickier rhythms. Now if we go lower than that, let's say we wanted to split our pie with 2 more people, you end up getting 1 out of 4 pieces of pie each, or 1/4 of a pie. That is what 16th notes are. So if eighth notes were 1 and 2 and 16th notes, you have to have 4 in that. 1 E and A. So let me just write this down just a little bit better here. So quarters, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 16th notes. We still have those eighth notes, but now we're splitting it in half again. That's where the second flag comes in, because now we can see the difference between 16th notes and eighth notes. So if we're counting this, we still have 1 and N. Now we're adding E, A. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. So if I'm showing you the difference in strums, quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 16th notes, 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. That means it takes 16 16th notes to equal the same 4 quarter notes. So this is where we start to get into tricky rhythms. That's why we're breaking all of this down. So what I want you to try to do this week is on a C chord or clapping, try to clap the rhythms that we see on page 1. So A, B, C, D, E, and F. I want you to try to play or clap those rhythms using these values as our basis. Now this might be a little bit tricky, so just give it a really good try. Otherwise, just practice playing these rhythms, and then we're going to add the next step later. But I want to start breaking these things down now, so that when we go to learn songs that use tricky rhythms, we've already talked about the different kinds of note durations that we can see. So I hope you have a great week. Give this a try, let me know how it goes, and I'll see you at our next lesson.